Welcome back. America's work culture is undergoing a seismic shift. So what's causing it? They've been called lazy, entitled.
I don't want to work anymore.
And they're not scared to preach about it on social media.
People always be like, what's your dream job? What's your dream job? To not have one, like, ever.
But Gen Z is our future. They'll represent 27% of our workforce next year.
I don't want to work anymore. I'm so tired.
And they don't care about climbing the corporate ladder. 42% say they'd quit if their job lacked work-life balance. And 72% would consider quitting if their boss wouldn't offer flexible work. A Gen Zer could change jobs 10 times before they're 34. So how will the American workplace cope? Now, to be fair, this isn't just Gen Z, but millennials as well. 55% of millennials say that they are willing to sacrifice their paycheck for a better work-life balance.
And mental health is playing a big role. One survey found that 84% of respondents said their workplace conditions had contributed to at least one mental health challenge.
And 81% of workers have said that they'd be looking for workplaces that support mental health in the future.
All right, so what does all of this add up to? Well, in the state of California, lawmakers are considering a law that would give people the right to just disconnect. That means that they wouldn't have to respond to their bosses after work hours. Generational diversity expert Rekha Gibbons joins us now. Rekha, can't employers say, great, don't answer my emails, don't pick up my calls, I'll find someone else who will?
Yeah, that's a tough one because there are legislation, there are laws with HR departments within companies themselves that are making decisions in terms of who can do what and who can do not. But this whole concept of carving out the niche for allowing me to have my private space, allowing me to have my zone that is separate from work is very individualistic to Gen Z. And I think it's a fantastic place for us to be.
So do you like this law?
I like elements of it because what we saw during COVID is that a lot of people were doing overtime work, right? Because when you're staying at home, when you're doing 24/7, you never unplug. So I think what we're seeing is a result of that. And Gen Z, this generation, is carving out their niche and saying, no, I want to cut off when I stop working, and I want you to respect my life-work balance.
So as Chris was pointing out, Rekha, 27% of the workforce is going to be Gen Z soon. So what kind of changes are we going to see, and why is mental health playing such a big role?
So I think what we're seeing is first of all, let's look at Gen Z and how similar it is to other generations. Let's look at boomers. Boomers 60 years ago were all about make love, not war. Let's talk about saving the planet. Let's save the earth. This was civil rights movement. So what we're seeing 60 years later is a very similar replay of that generation. But the boomers had to go to work after they had their revolutions, and they had to settle into corporate America. So what we're seeing now is Gen Z is trying to do the same social reform, which is really important to them. Social justice is front and center. The thing is, how do they do this? And they're making their voice heard. And one of the reasons why we're seeing such a shift for them in particular is they came into the workforce during COVID. They graduated from school and they missed a huge piece of what we know happens, and that is mentorship, community, and the ability to have somebody to show you the ropes.
In the final 30 seconds here, there's a lot of talk about a 4-day work week. How could that affect productivity?
You know, the 5-day week was created by Thomas Edison and Ford for the whole industrial factory paradigm. I think it's time we took a look at it because as COVID has taught us, as 9/11 taught us, and as the natural disasters have taught us, you can stay at home and be productive. So I think it is time for reform at that level, and I think we have to have a conversation about it. I don't see any reason why we can't have a 4-day week and still be productive.
All right, Rekha, thank you so much for your insight tonight.
My pleasure.
So, what would it look like for a small business owner if employees had the right to disconnect? Kalika Yap is a small business owner, and she joins us now. Kalika, thanks for being here. So, what is your take on the proposed right to ignore law?
Well, I really believe that energy, not time, is a predictor of productivity. So if my employees are doing the work that they need to be doing within the 4 days, and I don't have to connect with them after hours, I would really love to do that. But what I've been finding a lot of times with my employees, the ones who aren't working during the day are the ones that are missing deadlines, in which case I would love to be able to contact them because our clients need their feedback.
So, if this law went into place, how would that affect your business?
Well, I would have to really make sure that they're doing their work during those hours, because if they're not, then, they're going to get fired if they're not producing what they need to be doing.
So, what's been your experience with the Gen Z workforce in your business?
Well, when I started my business 26 years ago, I really needed to be flexible with them. In the very beginning, I was very tyrannical. I wanted them to be in their seats at 9 a.m. and leave at 5 p.m., take their breaks. But now I realize, I have to be flexible. This morning, I got a message on Slack from one of my employees who said, I'm going to start at 7:30 a.m. today because I want to leave at 3:30. It's Friday. And so she's gone. We have a deadline. And so I just asked her, is this going to be an ongoing thing for every Friday that you're just not going to, show up for the last 2 hours? And she said no. So, you have to be flexible. And I think that because they are going to be taking up the majority of our workforce, we need to understand how they're going to work. We need to be able to treat them with dignity and respect. We need to really understand that these workers also have goals and dreams, and they also want to be able to make a difference. So if we look at them in a really positive light, then I think that we can all get along.
So, we've also talked about a proposed 4-day work week. As a business owner, do you like this idea?
Well, when I used to work at the Getty, we used to have Fridays off as well too, and I really enjoyed it as an employee. But now as an employer, it makes you think, are you going to be able to get your work done in 32 hours rather than in 40? We have to see.
Well, Kalika Yap, thank you so much for your insight into the Gen Z worker.
Thank you.